For the first time in my life, I'm in quarantine now, although when you see this video, I'll probably be out of quarantine. So I've never been in this situation unless when I was a baby, I was kept in the same house for 2 weeks. I've never been in this situation before. Now, what have I learned from quarantine and indeed the whole situation when it comes to the virus and so on? Now, number one, I can remember when I was a child growing up, one of my close family members gave up smoking after smoking for decades, and she swore it wasn't difficult to do it. She just completely stopped instantly. She had no difficulty stopping. She never started again, and she always said to me, it's all in the mind. If you want to persuade yourself of something, you can persuade yourself of something. And that's so true. And this has been shown in this period, because I can remember when there were more restrictions in March or April, even though I'm a positive person by nature, I didn't like the fact I could only go out of the house every 2 or 3 days. Well, I could go out every day, but because there were only shops and supermarkets open, I would only go out for a walk every 2 or 3 days, and I found it quite difficult in the apartment, even though I don't live alone, and I didn't find it easy at all. However, with this 2-week period, because I had mentally prepared myself for it and it wasn't unexpected, actually it hasn't been that difficult at all. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't want it to last more than 2 weeks, but I think that shows an interesting thing. That's what, when something's unexpected, we're more likely to be hurt by it or more likely to be affected. But when something's expected, we are more likely to prepare for it. So the same with investing, right? If you say, right, I'm going to invest for a period of 20, 30 years, I know there's going to be various market crashes, there's going to be various market highs. Just stay nice and calm during the good and bad times and things will work out. You're more likely to deal with everything than if you're expecting just the markets to go up and up and up. And also what I've learned is it's a really good sign as a business owner if things tick along. I can remember when I was fairly new to the workforce many years ago, my boss at the time said to me, a really good sign of a strong business is when you can go away as an owner, let's say on a holiday for a week or whatever, and nothing is affected. And I would extend that though and say this: if things don't change after a big change of circumstances like the coronavirus, that's always a good sign, because there's always two types of people. There are those people who want to use things as an excuse, like I didn't do this because of X or Y. I didn't do this because, I don't know, my family members in hospital. I didn't do this because of this reason or that reason. But what I've learned is the best performers can perform equally well in all situations. So the same thing in sports. The very world-class players can still score goals even if so many things are going on in their personal life, right? I'm sure the likes of Messi, Ronaldo, or the great world-class athletes, many of those I'm sure have had awful things happen in their private life, but they haven't let it affect their statistics. Or for that matter, let's say the pitch is not particularly good, they still manage to score a goal. They might have to adapt how they play, but they still manage to do it. And likewise in business, those people who are at the top of their game are more likely to adapt. They're not going to let things affect them, whereas those who are mediocre performers are more likely to make excuses. They're more likely to say, well, of course, because of the coronavirus, business is difficult, or, oh, of course, because of this or that. And at the end of the day, it's excuses. So, for example, I was talking to somebody a few weeks ago and he says, well, I can't meet people face to face now. I can't do business. I was like, well, I haven't been doing that for years. And he just doesn't want to adapt himself, right? It's an excuse. That's an example. But I think it's the case not just in my industry, in every industry, right? There's always going to be people who are not going to be proactive about things as well. I can remember when the virus started, I offered a part-time job to a journalist who I know for a friend. And the job was actually paying her more than she would get in her normal job because it was a US dollar based agreement. But she didn't accept the job, or she said she would do it, but then she didn't end up doing it. That's a great opportunity. Now, a lot of people say, well, who would say no to a good opportunity? Who would say no to an opportunity where you're working less for getting more? But again, there tends to be two types of people in life: those who are quite proactive and those who make excuses. And I think things like the quarantine and the virus have really shown that. Same with the whole work at home thing. When people are working from home, they actually can't hide as much. They can't hide behind working in teams. Yes, you can work remotely, as part of a team, but I think it's much harder to hide. So I think this whole episode has really shown us a lot of good things.